So White House Press Secretary Karoline Leavitt announced that the Associated Press has been banned from the Oval Office for not honoring the recent renaming of the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America.
The Gulf formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, which should now be called whatever the hell.
There's a much broader...
The Gulf of whatever the hell he wants.
Trump's press secretary, Karoline Leavitt, issued a stark warning to reporters that they will face consequences if they lie about his administration.
For the second time in as many days, the Associated Press was blocked from entering the White House event after refusing to change the name to Gulf of America.
Karoline Leavitt completely dismantled The View and the liberal media, making it clear that they will face bans if they continue spreading misinformation about the Trump administration. She has also threatened to sue The View for repeatedly targeting her on their show. In response, the show's producer has reportedly warned Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg to issue a formal apology immediately after Leavitt threatened $1 million lawsuit against the network. Leavitt also emphasized that the Trump administration is the most transparent in history.
In the mainstream media saying that there's no transparency. I mean, before it was Elon Musk and President Trump doing this and being highly scrutinized for it, it was just unnamed bureaucrats in the city that nobody knew just writing checks. And finally, we're actually looking at the books, and what they are revealing is truly appalling, but I guess not surprising when you look at the way that Washington has been run for decades. Again, the American people voted for this monumental change, and that's exactly what they're getting.
And this is exactly what the leftist media is trying to ignore. Not only that, but they have also disregarded a direct order from Trump to address the situation in the Gulf of America. Now, let me show you how CNN and The View reacted to it.
Just have a little symbol called the Gulf formerly known as the Gulf of Mexico, which should now be called whatever the hell.
There's a much broader...
The Gulf of whatever the hell he wants.
But there's a much broader danger. Today it's the Gulf of Mexico, or the Gulf of America. Tomorrow, what is it? The president says there's only two genders in this world. We all know transgender people. What happens when the AP reports on transgender Americans? What happens when CNN or ABC or the New York Times?
This is absolutely hilarious. Have you seen how desperately they're pushing their agenda, trying to connect the dots? Just watch how The View scrambled to explain it after the ban.
The White House Correspondents Association released a statement, and it said, the White House cannot dictate how news organizations report the news, nor should it penalize working journalists because it is unhappy with their editors' decisions. And the AP is signaling legal action, calling this a violation of their First Amendment rights. Now, and the reason I got to read that is because I said, it's so funny. I haven't seen it reported anywhere else. I haven't seen that piece of information anywhere else.
What, that it's illegal?
That the AP said, that they said, listen, we're not standing for this.
Right. Yeah.
That's a huge, and because I was saying to Robin, I said, they all need to get together and push back. You can't do it one at a time. She said, no, and then she gave me that piece of information. So, are they right?
Yes, they are. I mean, we do have the Constitution still, at least in the United States. And, I think the First Amendment is the First Amendment because it's one of the most important amendments, right? And it's freedom of speech.
Oh, really? I honestly wonder how Sunny Hostin became a lawyer and ever won a case. Here's the thing. The president has the right to decide whom to meet with and whom not to. And this has nothing to do with the First Amendment. And even if it did, why did the former administration shut its doors to questions? Where were you back then? If Trump signs an executive order, every American should abide by it.
And the press is the direct check for the government overreach. It's the direct check. It's the press reports to the American people the facts of what is really happening. And so I think there's no question that the AP should defend its constitutional rights. And what the Trump can, I guess, certainly bar people from the Oval Office, but what they cannot do is tell people what they can say. They cannot do it. And one last thing, the AP style guide is many newsrooms across the country follow the AP style guide. And it was published on January 23rd of this year after the executive order. And what it said was renaming the Gulf of Mexico is one thing, But Trump's order only carries authority within the United States, and other countries do not have to recognize the change. And so they're reporting it accurately.
We don't need more false liberal mainstream media spreading fake news. We already have enough of them. What we need are just a few who are willing to report the truth, no matter what. And when I say a few, I mean this.
You showed some receipts today, like they didn't believe these things existed. If you show these people in the press room, this is $2.5 million for cow flatulence reduction. Do any of these reporters make a case for $2.5 million for cow flatulence reduction in Brazil?
Well, they tried to make the case yesterday for $50 million in condoms to Gaza, saying that they actually went to another country, as if that's any better. The point is we are discovering this egregious misuse of American taxpayer funds. And yes, Jesse, we have the receipts, and I will continue to pull them at every briefing if they continue to ask, and we will provide that information. We have nothing to hide. Again, President Trump is exposing what the American people want him to do.
By the way, she brought up the Gaza issue because Joy Behar mentioned it, claiming it was the wrong Gaza, but the only thing Joy missed was that they actually admitted their fraud in public. Karoline Leavitt didn't stop there. At every briefing, she has dismantled the woke Democrats, but this time, she took down their media as well.
Black excellence scares Donald Trump, it scares Stephen Miller, and it scares Elon Musk. Because you know what? Deep down, they recognize their own mediocrity. And so, they're doing everything they can to entrench the racial wealth gap.
If you heard that type of violent, enticing rhetoric from our side of the aisle, from Republican leaders on Capitol Hill, I think there would be a lot more outrage in this room today. It's unacceptable, the comments that have been made by these Democrat leaders, and frankly, they don't even know what they're talking about. Because President Trump was elected with a mandate from the American people to make this government more efficient. He campaigned across this country with Elon Musk, vowing that Elon was going to head up the Department of Government Efficiency, and the two of them, with a great team around them, were going to look at the receipts of this federal government and ensure it's accountable to American taxpayers. That's all that is happening here, and for Democrat officials to incite violence and encourage Americans to take to the streets is incredibly alarming, and they should be held accountable for that rhetoric.
And I'll say it again for the woke liberals. Everything is about race and gender. That's why they keep funding and manufacturing issues every day, instilling fear in their supporters. Speaking of funding, you have to check out this video.
Elon Musk is a threat to our democracy. Allowing him to uncover fraud in the misappropriation of taxpayer dollars is somehow a constitutional crisis. Let me remind you all what you'll be losing if Elon Musk is not stopped. Americans will not benefit from the $2 million spent on a pancake eating contest in Mongolia. They will not benefit from the $4 million to fund a tampon throwing contest in Dubai. They will not benefit from the $8 million to produce Pimp My Ride in Zimbabwe. Hello? We got it. Got what? Evidence that USAID is actually really beneficial to the American people. Okay, I'll be right there. It came in 10 minutes ago. I'm sure this will make Americans really supportive of USAID. Elmo wants to jihad. Elmo wants women to not show their ankles. Elmo wants to teach your son how to throw a stone really hard. This is exactly what the American people will lose if we don't stop Elon Musk. I agree. Look at this. On the left is one of Musk's cronies. He goes by the alias Big Balls. I suspect it's a nickname he gave himself so people think he's packing, but by the looks of it, I'd say his balls aren't really that big. He recently recommended cutting $16 million funding an Afghanistan version of Karate Kid, which makes him the biggest threat to our democracy to date. My God, it's a constitutional crisis. We're sending a man inside Doge to gather information. This is our spy, David Hogg, codenamed Teeny Tiny Teensy Weensy Balls. Are you sure this will work? It's a 50-50 shot. My only concern is that he's too masculine to masquerade as a genius.
I guess this perfectly sums up the leftist media and their protests. But Karoline Leavitt has turned a deaf ear to the woke Democrats. Watch how she trolled them in her recent interview with Jesse Waters.
As they did that, Jesse, I was watching the faces of the mainstream media reporters who were in the Oval Office, and there was sheer silence because it appeared that many of them, who are supposed to be writing the truth about our federal bureaucracy, had no idea that the federal retirement system is being processed deep into the ground and is not computerized.
Poor Karoline. The leftist media isn't reporting anything like this because they're all leaning left, focusing on narratives that no one wants to hear.
on whether you're talking about conservation or otherwise, hundreds of miles out into the sea. This actually happens in the global economy or country. Oh my God. So the body of water south of China, which much of the world calls the South China Sea, China calls it South Sea, Vietnam calls it Eastern Sea, and Philippines has designated parts of it the West Philippine Sea. So it happens. I needed to know that because I was like, why would you wide swath it? And Google and GPS things will call it Gulf of America only in this country. So then if you search it outside, so it's like, it's a little more complicated. It's a dumb thing to hang your hat on.
Why does she care about it when the prices are going up on eggs? Why does it?
See, Joy Behar is suddenly concerned about egg prices with all these major issues happening. Trust me, she's only bringing this up to distract from where the conversation is really heading. Let me know your thoughts on this issue, and don't forget to like and subscribe.